Welcome to Where Her Heart Speaks, a show designed to challenge and disrupt ineffective thoughts and behaviors to help you not only embody peace, joy, calm, and certainty, but also to help you live the life you've always dreamed of living. Where Her Heart Speaks with Coach Catherine begins now.
Hi there, it's Coach Catherine. Listen, women leaders have long been oppressed by patriarchal systems, and despite finding ways to navigate, rise above, and occupy spaces that were previously held solely by white men, there remains a blatant disregard of women leaders' qualities, talents, and abilities in far too many organizations. If you are a woman leader or a woman who desires to climb the corporate ladder and do not yet know the term collaborative confidence, you are doing yourself a disservice. Collaborative Confidence is the title of Dr. Heather Backstrom's newly released #1 bestseller, wherein she provides the framework, facts, implementable strategies, and more about how women leaders can activate self-awareness, amplify their authentic talents, and accelerate workplace change. Collaborative Confidence by Dr. Heather Backstrom can be purchased from Amazon.com, BarnesandNobles.com, or Dr. Heather's website, www.heatherbackstrom.com. Listen, if you're ready to activate, amplify, and accelerate in your career, be sure to pick up your copy of Collaborative Confidence today. Welcome and welcome back. I'm Catherine James, international speaker, best-selling author, trauma-informed transformational coach, and your host for this show, Where Her Heart Speaks. This week, I am bringing to you a conversation that is often talked about, long overdue, and needed in today's society. We are talking about women and their confidence. Super excited to have someone special with me, someone that I've had the pleasure of working with. And I know that I often say that I have someone special, but hey, the women that I get to spend time with and share space with just are special. So I have today Vanessa Frater-Robertson. And Vanessa is a qualified confidence coach and award-winning international speaker. She specializes in coaching mompreneurs, those who are in their 40s and over, for whom difficult obstacles are continuing to hold them back from achieving their career, their relationship, and maybe even life goals. So what I love about Vanessa is that she has a unique ability to guide them to a place where they're able to tap into their confidence through this personalized action plan that helps them achieve their goals, grow their businesses, and live rich, bold, vibrant lives that they deserve to live. So Vanessa, welcome to Where Her Heart Speaks.
Thank you, Catherine. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for inviting me along today.
Yes, I'm so excited for you to be here. We've not seen each other for quite a while. And while I see you busy out here in the social world, to actually see your face and sit in this space with you again just feels good.
Yes.
So, one of the things as we were talking and kind of leading up to this, that you said that really struck me in terms of why you do the work that you do, and one of the messages that you really want to get out there is that women don't have to ask for permission. Like, I love that because I like to think that's how I live my life. I have this term where I like to say we get to live life on our own terms, right? So as you say, women don't have to ask for permission, I want to just ask you to share, what does that mean for you, and where did it come from? Like, how did you get to that place of believing that, when we're in a society that says, like, no longer covert or overtly spoken, but covertly, women still like are in the background, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
so share a bit about that.
Oh, first of all, so the first part of the question, well, what does that mean to me? And what do I mean when I say women not seeking permission to do the things they do? Because all too many times I find that women are setting their goals too low. They feel like they have to be in this little box and be the good little girl, or the woman that doesn't speak, and the woman that is the mom in the workplace and volunteering for things whether she's paid for it or not, and showing up more because she wants to be liked and she wants to smooth things over. Whereas maybe inside there's this burning passion to do something else, or have a more fulfilling career, or start a new business, or do a new hobby, and they feel like they're putting everyone else ahead of them, and then waiting for someone to come along and say, yay, it's okay for you to do that dream. But nobody's going to come along and give you permission to be yourself, or for you to birth that dream that you have inside of yourself. So it's like, stop looking for permission. It's like, step into your power, step into your confidence, and be the person that you were meant to be, the person that you were put on this planet to be. Because I don't believe there are any mistakes or accidents why we're here. We've got some kind of purpose, or purposes to fulfill, and that's why we're here, right? But where it has come from is from a space of feeling like I had to show up in a way of, I always had to be perfect. My old story, I always had to people please and get everybody smiling and laughing, and then they would be happy and they wouldn't be shouting at each other. I felt like I had to be better, 10 times better than everybody else, in order to be picked, whether that was at school, whether that was at university, or whether that was in my early working career. And then it got to a point where I was getting to a point where I felt like I was either burning out or getting to a place of exhaustion. I said, you know what, enough's enough. I don't want to do this anymore. And there are things that have happened to my life. I've gone away on holiday, and not on holiday, I was doing a job, doing a sales job, and it was a crash and burn scenario. And it completely robbed me of my confidence, to the point where I had a breakdown, and I thought, no, this isn't right. This isn't who I want to be. This is not how I want to live my life. So I got the help I needed, and I thought, you know what? This is the life I want. That's my vision. Those are my goals right now. How do I do it? What are the strategies? What are the things can I do to actually do what I want to do that's going to make me happy? But also I can show up as a better version of myself and have a richer, better contribution to those around me. And I found that as when I became a mother, then it gets even more complex, because you have these little beings that you have to look after, and you're a wife, and I had this whole bogus thing in my head. I've got to balance everything. Well, it can't be balanced, because you don't spend 50% of your life at work and 50% of your life in your home. So I started to think it's about healthy ratios that shift and move all the time, and doing that dance between them. So I then became more at ease with the ratio that I had. So I didn't feel guilty when I was at home, thinking I was neglecting my work. And when I was at work, I could, cut those strings of regret and recrimination, because I was spending time with my family as well. So I found that because of my own personal circumstances and getting over burnout and getting over a breakdown, I found that there are steps that you can take to get yourself back healthy, and also changing your mindset about who you are and who you actually want to be. And you only have to answer to yourself. Yes, you have responsibilities. Yes, there are things that you want to do, but at the end of the day, you are the person that you have to look in the mirror and answer to, and say, who am I? Who am I showing up as? Am I proud of who I am? Am I proud of the contribution that I'm giving? Am I proud of what I want to contribute to the world and my family and myself? And I just realized when I was answering those questions, some of those questions answers were no. So I said, right, enough's enough. I want to live the life that I actually want to live.
I like to do is laugh, like, you are a whole nother person. And you said so much there. I was
Mm,
trying to jot down some notes. One of the last things you said, you are the person who has to answer to you. And I
mhm,
like to say every night when we lay down with self. Even if there's someone laying next to us, we
mhm.
lay down with self, and we know what self really desires. We know what self really needs. We know if self is really satisfied with the person we were during the day, right? So,
Ah,
really coming to that place of saying, am I okay with that person? And what you've said is there were a number of times where you've walked through your life and you had to answer that question, no, I'm not okay with that person. And in order to become okay, there were some steps that you took, and we'll get into those steps. But also, what I heard you talk about was you being that person. You were able to take these steps. You had to get some help. And I'm wanting to bring you back a bit because you kind of ran through it really fast. Um, you were the person that felt you had to be 10 times better. You were the person that was the people pleaser. You were the person, and you didn't say this part, but what I heard was the peacekeeper.
mhm.
So, how does one go from being that person to now being this person who's helping other moms live in their authentic self? First, becoming your own authentic self, and then being bold enough, being confident enough to say, and I'm going to go out and help some other women do the same thing.
Mm. I think, when I looked at my life and things were happening, personal things were happening, and I was not coping. I'll just put it out there. I wasn't coping. I put up a good front. I had that mask over me that I would smile, I would laugh, and people think, oh yeah, she's okay. But inside, I
Mm,
was dying inside,
yeah.
because I just felt like I wasn't coping with, aging parents and things going wrong and changing work life and trying to be a good person, a brilliant person in all areas of my life. And I was finding I was getting burnt out, I was getting exhausted and emotionally drained.
Mhm.
So I had to go and get coaching. I had to get that coaching to help me to almost deconstruct myself and look at what I actually believed and those behaviors that weren't helpful, because I think even coaches need coaches too, because you can't be that person who's objective looking in your life. Sometimes you can do some self-coaching, but sometimes you need someone to come along and go, oh, let me help you see the situation for you. Does that make sense to you? Because it has to make sense to the person first for them to actually then do something about it. And you need that guidance with somebody. So I got coaching myself. Then it was like, right, okay, setting those goals and boundaries to myself that were healthy for me, and staying true to them and being consistent and having the discipline to make those steps, but also looking at how could I do something that was healthy, a healthy way for me to show up, not a way to show up that was going to completely deplete my energy. So then I would show up with either resentment or exhaustion, and then get a breakdown. So I had to do the work on me first. I had to do that really tough work that wasn't, it's not easy. I'm not gonna lie, it's not easy. And sometimes there were tears, sometimes there was resistance, and sometimes there was, oh my goodness, do I really want to do this? But actually, yes, because I feel so much better now. I see myself showing up better with my family, better with my friends, better in my working life. I'm able to be more consistent and disciplined. Does that mean I don't take breaks? Of course I take breaks, but having that discipline to say, right, I'm going to make sure I schedule in time for my family, time for my friends, making sure that I'm not always the one that's saying, oh, I can't come, I can't come, I can't come, because that I found that over time would break me down. I needed that outlet, that adult outlet with my friends, and, you know, doing the things that brought me joy and setting those healthy boundaries. So that's what I had to do. I had to do the work on me first in order to deconstruct myself and see what actually mattered to me and what steps I needed to take to get better. And then as I was coming through and operating in a much better and healthier space, it was like, you know what, there are other people that who don't know how to go for what they want, or who are struggling with where they are at the moment. Maybe I could help them. So that's where it's come about.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting when you talk about coaches need coaches. As you were saying that, I was thinking, yeah, because the label outside of the jar can't see the content inside of the jar, right? So yes, we need coaches ourselves sometimes, and self-coaching only goes so far. And also just having sometimes that person to nudge us, to push us a little further than we want to go at times. Um, One of the things that I've heard you say a couple of times is inside. There's a burning passion inside, you said earlier. And then as you were on this journey, you said at some point you felt like you were dying inside. And I think inside is what's most important. Inside is what's often lost. We live, definitely here, you're not in the US, but in this Western world where there's so much emphasis on what's going on up here, and I'm pointing to our head, what's going on inside of our brains, and very little emphasis about what's actually going on inside of what I'll say our souls, our true self, right? So there's almost this disconnect. This inside gives us so many warnings. This inside is talking to us all day long, but because we're trained to pay attention to this brain thing, the inside gives us feelings. As you mentioned earlier, you feel something, but then your brain says, no, I've got to be this perfect person. Your brain says, I've got to balance it all. Your brain says, I've got to be the best mom. I've got to be the best wife. I've got to be the best business owner. I've got to be the best. And then we're in breakdown where your body has been saying all along, hello, something's off here, something's wrong, right? And it is not until, it's unfortunate oftentimes, that we hit breakdown that we're able to say, I need to take a step back. That we're able to say, I love that you said that, balance is bogus. Like there's no such thing. I don't spend 50% of my time in my home life and 50% in my work life. That's not what it is. So being able, instead, what you called it was establishing healthy ratios. And I absolutely love the idea that you've come to a place of understanding what that looks like. And what I know is also having to release some of the stories that showed up in, I'll say, the past Vanessas. That was still you, but those years of your life, right? Releasing some of those stories about making sure that everyone was happy, and coming into a place of saying, no, I'm going to make sure that I'm happy. And as I'm saying this, I'm thinking about some of the work we did together and the moment you had where it's like, celebrate yourself, and just that pat yourself on the back thing.
You know, I still do that.
Because how often, we're so consumed with making sure that everyone else is okay, making sure that everyone else is celebrated, and we forget to celebrate ourselves. And we're the ones out here champion, doing all of the hard work, the heavy lifting, and we don't stop to say, good job, right?
Yeah.
So in your work and what you're doing now, first, and I just have to really acknowledge who you are sitting in front of me today. Before I can even make that jump, I really have to acknowledge like the beam, the ray that I see, the confidence that I see. Whereas in the past, it wasn't that it was missing, but there was also that self-doubt that showed up. And it was evident, right? Like there's a part, this duality that was taking place. And not that it ever disappears, but I think the confidence, the person you are today is much more in the forefront. Okay, so kudos to you for that. um,
Thank you.
as in the work that you are doing today, some of the things that we talked about before we came on also in terms of moms is them not holding on to guilt or feeling guilty. So I want to have you talk about that piece as well.
Yeah, because I think it's, you know, this conditioning thing, the way that we've been brought up, even if you know, you've had a great upbringing, there's certain things that have conditioned us to feel like, oh, this is how a woman is supposed to be, and this is how a good woman is supposed to be, and this is how a decent woman shows up. And if anyone strays out of that, or strays out of that based on other people's idea of what we should be, there's almost this way, some people do overtly make you feel guilty, or they're guilty, or is there this underlying kind of, that's not how we do things here, and you feel that kind of like chill if you sort of like step outside of that, because you want to do something slightly different that isn't in the norm of either your community or family or society, you know, because I know we're in 2023, but there is still these glass ceilings for people. There is still these restrictions, and you can't get above that because, oh, that's not for a woman, or that's for men, or that's not for a Black woman, or that's not for an Asian woman, or whatever it is. There are these restrictions. And for moms, it's like you've had that other layer that, oh, well, this is how a mom should be. This is how mom should show up. And, oh, if you've got a business, oh, well, you know, if you're in your business, some people go, oh, well, shouldn't you be with your kids because you're neglecting them? You're not being a good mom. And then if you want to leave to go and be with your kids, if you're in the corporate world, there she goes, leaving on the dot of 5 or whatever so there's this dual kind of trying to make everybody feel better. And I just feel like, no, you do that, you'll drive yourself nuts. You have to let yourself be your own barometer of how you want to show up and how you want to be. You cannot live a life to please other people, because you can't please all of the people all the time. And my goodness, when I realized that, can't please all of the people all of the time, and it went out of understanding it here and I went to feeling it in here. That's when, you know, I started to feel that shift, that say, I can't live my life for other people. So it's about understanding what is your true vision. If you get that clarity on what is going to be good for you, your family, your community, and that means something to you, if you know what is truly driving you, then everything that you tend to do then aligns with this vision that is absolutely the core of your being and what truly drives you. And that vision, if you attach that emotion to it, then it will drive you through even when you're having a tough time, even when it's horrible and dull outside, you don't really want to go out and exercise, or you don't want to go out and do the things you want to do, or that boring bit of paperwork that we all dread. Your vision and your drive will drive you. And the time that you spend with your family will be ease, and it will be love, and it will be joy, because that is what drives you, because that's part of what you're doing it for, why you're doing it. You understand your deepest why, and if your family's part of that, then spending time with them is a joyful thing, not something to be guilty about. And spending time in your business, it's also joyful, because you know that's what's going to contribute to you, your family, and your why. So I think it starts with that beautiful vision. What does that look like for you? And then when you're doing the things that align to that, that cuts the guilt, because you know that you're going towards something that's bigger and what you actually truly want and enjoy. And then there's no guilt then, because you know you're going towards that greater purpose, that deep why within you, and it cuts that guilt out.
Yeah. And I believe as I step into my trauma space, my my ideas in terms of where this all stems from, even guilt. Guilt is not something that starts as an adult when we decide to go after our dreams. Guilt has stemmed from something that has occurred early in life, and we learned that if we didn't do this thing, then somebody was going to be disappointed. And we didn't want to disappoint that someone. So then you forego your desires. And you also learn that if I choose me, then there's guilt underneath there. Like, choosing me means I'm going to feel bad about not supporting someone else, not making someone else happy. So it's really understanding that guilt doesn't just show up in our adult lives. Guilt is something that we learned early in life, that if we didn't behave a certain way, if we didn't appease a certain way, then we were disappointing someone else, and that made us feel bad, right? So we choose self. That means that we're disappointing someone else.
Yeah.
So understanding that it's a process that we have to walk through, not just to be able to wake up one day and say, hey, I'm going to choose myself and everything's going to be okay. No, you said that the women that you're working with are 40 and over. So if you've been carrying this behavior, and I say behavior, but also this internal belief that accepting self, doing for self, means that I am denying someone else. If you've been inherently carrying that belief, then you're not going to just wake up and say, I'm going to make a change. Right?
Yeah.
We have to go back to the root of it. And the story doesn't matter. The situation doesn't matter. But what matters is what you're saying, the feeling. The feeling that's driving the behavior, the feeling that's keeping you from saying, I'm going to choose self. As you were talking and you mentioned the vision, I thought, how many of the listeners are saying, but I'm not sure about what my vision is? Because again, when we have that disconnect from self, we are not able to even tap into a vision, that thing that drives us. And we go back to when you lay down at night, there is a you that's there. When you are by yourself and you're looking at yourself in the mirror, there is a you that's there, that's dissatisfied, right? And that you is giving you information that we want to pause and listen to. I was reading just before we got on, and there's all this literature about how women have so much weight on them. Like, we are the moms, we are the wives. But in addition to that, we're also called to be responsible for everyone else's emotions. And as a result, the rate of disease, the rate of sickness is so much higher in women than men. And it's just stepping back and asking, like, why is this the case? And what you said, we've been conditioned, we've been programmed to believe and think that this is how we're supposed to be. And you're here to say, no, we've got to debunk that myth, right?
Yeah. It's like drop it, like dropping pots or something. You just drop that that persona and step into it. And yes, for a lot of people, it can take time, depending on how much you, like you said, this doesn't happen just, you don't just hit 40 and then the guilt just shows up. It depends. It depends on how much they've got to go through to readdress what is their new operating system, their new way of going. And it's like attacking those negative beliefs and putting those new positive beliefs in. And that can take a bit of time to get used to. It's like putting on a new coat and, right, okay, let me see, does that fit? Does that look good? And okay, let me go out in it for a little bit. You don't just, whereas some people, they might try on that new black jacket. Oh yeah, it's brilliant. And they can go with it straight away. Whereas some people go, oh, I've got to get used to it a bit. Oh, I've got this new hairstyle. Oh, let me get used to it. And it might take a little bit of getting used to, and walking in that, and then encouraging that behavior and trying that new behavior day after day. What's the new thing that you can do, and practice until it becomes part of you. And that's the work. It's like practicing that new behavior, that new belief, until it becomes part of you. But as long as it's something that you truly want, even if it's aspirational, and that it's okay, it's not going to happen today, it's not going to happen tomorrow, but it's aspirational, it's what I want, then there's hope for you to step into walking those steps, practicing those steps. It's like one of the things there's one lady who came to me and she was having real trouble setting her goals, and after a few sessions it's like, right, okay, we need to do something, because this isn't working for you and I can see you're getting frustrated. So it's like looking at doing exercises to almost hack how she was believing, and doing different like left brain exercises, saying go and brush your teeth with your left hand for 20 days and see how that does, and start thinking about a new belief while you're doing that. It hacks the way your brain is feeling. And there's lots of different things that I did with her, but just trying to get her to think in a different way, to get her out of a logical side of her brain, to get into her heart and thinking in a different way. You have to hack that it's like a record. I'm showing my age now, but a record, a CD. We thought CDs were indestructible, you couldn't destroy them. It's like if you put a scratch on that, you have to scratch the record to break the pattern and put something in there that can be the new pattern that you go forward with. And that, for some people, that can take time. Some people, it could be, I'm going to do it, I'm going to get it done, and I'm going to go for it. Whereas some people need a bit of time to because they've been operating, like you said, for this way for such a long time. So everybody's different, and that's why I say that I work with people to get them a unique success plan that gets them towards living the lifestyle of their choice, not someone else's choice, their choice.
Yeah, I like to think we have to look at what keeps getting in the way, what keeps stopping us. Like it took me a long time to say that I coached people around tasks, because I am a whole person coach for starters, but I believe that there was a lot of information out there that said, if you just do it this way or say it this many times, and in my own life, I had been in personal development, studying personal development because of my own history, of almost 30 years now. And I remember just doing things over and over and over. And yeah, it may inch me a little further, but then I'd come to a place to where I would get scared again and I would stop. And it's started to become frustrating. And I said, why is it that I keep hitting the same wall? And what I came to understand is about what's going on. You say the heart, I say the body, and more. If I look at it from a scientific standpoint, what's happening in the nervous system. And when we go into that fight or flight response, you cannot override that. And oftentimes people say repetition, well, you begin to train yourself to say, okay, it's not dangerous. So if I do it 5 times and I don't die, then it's probably safe to do it a 6th time. And at some point, you get to a place to where you start feeling it again, even though logically you know that you're not going to die. So I wanted to say, well, how do I get rid of this feeling? Because the feeling is stopping me, right? So really looking at what's getting in the way. The task, we set goals, and a lot of early coaching was definitely around tasks. And it works because people can still move forward. But as a transformational coach who sits in trauma and looks at all of trauma, I really believe that if we get to the root and we dissolve the root, I'm not even going to say resolve, dissolve, in a place where it's no longer controlling you, then you're able to just walk. You're able to just walk. And when you have a feeling come up, instead of it hijacking what I say, our prefrontal cortex, you're able to stay in your logical prefrontal cortex brain and say, you know what, this is just that same old feeling from back then, but I'm here today. And as you talk about doing a lot of different things, it's just teaching the body. I love that you said brushing your teeth, because we think it's a brain thing, but it's actually a physiological thing. Like, you're moving your body, and moving your body means that you're releasing energies out of your body. So whatever was attached around this goal setting with her, it wasn't just that she was brushing her teeth and jumping to the right side of the brain, brushing her teeth with the wrong hand, or the minor hand, I won't say right, minor hand, and jumping to the other side of her brain, but it was also like a physiological movement that was taking place and challenging what had become norms.
Yeah. And
So
she, and working with her, I mean, we did a few other things as well, brain gym exercises, because I realized that just talking to her and trying to get, it wasn't working. And I just thought, you know, I've got to do something different here, because this, what I was doing for her that has worked for other people was not working for her. So sitting down and really understanding, right, okay, we need to do something that's going to get her completely out, just completely hijack how she's thinking, how she's believing, what she's doing, and then bring her back. And I found that after a few sessions, she was starting to be more open to the possibility of, oh, what goal do I actually want? What do I actually want to do? And she was able to at least start the process. And we were seeing more and more less resistance to the process. And then once she was then in the process and going through, it was a lot easier then to just go, right, okay, let's see what other things work for you in order. And that helped me to understand that, you know, not one size fits all. I knew that already, but I was seeing it in practice that actually, you know, you do have to try to hijack what is going on for that person. And it was just the going round in her head, her beliefs about herself. And I thought, right, okay, we need to hijack that in order to help her to go forward and take those steps that you need. And you do need to look at what's going on. What is that belief? And like you say, it's like the body knows what's going on. And if you're, you know, you have a certain thought and you're breathing like this and it's coming, all right, okay, well, so what's going on with that? You know, what is that? Why is that? How is that showing up for you? And so, I mean, I'm not a counselor or a therapist, but I've been trained to, you know, you've been trained to see that if something is happening with the client sitting in front of you, there are certain things you can do. And like, I would never go down, if I thought that somebody really needed, you know, a different kind, I'd say, well, how is this shown up for you? And how would it be that maybe, you know, there might be, how is coaching helping you? Because it's not my place to say that they need this or they need that. If they're sitting in front of me, they've chosen me, and I'll work with them, but I'll also, you know, give them other opportunities to look at other mediums for them if that is appropriate. But yeah, you're right. It's like, so you have to deal with what, you know, is coming up. And that's why I said with this particular client, right, let's do something different, you know, so that we can actually help you on the process to actually start, because we weren't starting.
Yeah. Kudos to you. Kudos for being aware. Kudos for having enough tools in your tool belt to know, I'm going to just pull out something different. That is so important. A lot of conversation that is taking place in the coaching world right now is, you know, how do you know if you're crossing the line? Or I'm not going to get into their history because that feels like therapy. And I'm always of the opinion that the whole person comes and sits in front of you. And that whole person includes their history. Their history has followed them into their present.
Yeah.
So we have to have tools to really help the whole person. And in my space and what I learned in trauma, my trauma courses and certifications, is the distinction is whether or not a person can show up for themselves versus not. If
Yes.
a person is unable to show up for themselves, then therapy is the route. If they are able to show up for themselves, support themselves, be present, then coaching is the route. Doesn't mean that we won't get into some of the sticky stuff.
Yeah.
As long as they're able to stay in a space of where they are supporting themselves, they are able to remain present and not fall back, then coaching is a viable option. One of the other things you said that kind of piqued my curiosity in terms of people was that women look for permission. And when you said that, I wondered, do they look for permission? Like, is there an awareness where you're saying kind of consciously, I'm waiting for someone to give me permission? Or is it that going back to the conditioning and we're just stuck in that conditioning? And so we don't know to move forward. I'm really wondering, is there an awareness? And I bring this up because I'm feeling like there's not. And so this now brings it to the forefront and helps people become aware, where we are consciously waiting for someone to say, take that next step, after your dreams. What are your findings in that? Or if is that something that you've played around with?
Well, when I've asked women that I've worked with, and I mean, I've worked with men as well, but when I've asked them, what is getting in the way? What you've wanted this goal for however long. So I've asked them, is this a new goal, or is this is something that you've wanted for a while, and how long have you wanted it for? And some people have said, oh, I've wanted it for 5 years. I wanted it for 10 years. I'm like, well, what's stopped you from getting there? And then we can get into the story of what's going on, of what stopped them, what their beliefs are, and if I have to challenge, I'll challenge, or just listen and hear what's going on, so I can understand the questions that are going to help them come to the realization of what's going on. A lot of the time, I think there isn't an awareness. People have got that condition and they just go, oh, I'll just play small, and there's no awareness. But it's like when you're asking, well, what do you actually want? And they go, oh, well, actually, I want this. And it's like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, I didn't realize that I was playing small. Whereas there are other people, it's almost like they're kind of like, I want to do it, but oh gosh, but people like me don't. Oh, I want to do it, but and so there is kind of a little bit of awareness that people like me don't. I want it, but people like me don't. So there is a kind of awareness that they're looking for some kind of external validation to say, yeah, you'd be great for that, go for it. Yeah, you could do a good job. And they're looking for the cheerleader on the sidelines to get them going, rather than actually, no, this is one, I'm going to take those steps. But the courage to do that sometimes isn't there. And I totally understand that, because, if this is something different, it's courage. And you're not going to get that confidence before doing the action. Action comes first, and then you get the confidence because you've done it. But you've got to have that kind of oomph to say, yes, I want to take that step. The courage helps you take the step, but you get the confidence on the evidence and doing it, and then you get more and more confidence the more you do it, and more confidence the more you do it, right? So it's almost like encouraging people to say, look, if you're waiting for the confidence to show up before you take the step, it's not going to happen.
Right.
So how much do you want this? It's like that, and I was told that too, so
And it's so interesting because oftentimes as we are working with women, you ask that question, what do you want? And they've not really thought about it. So when you're sitting in these spaces and you're asking, well, what do you really want? it's almost like a deer in headlights first,
Mm.
and then a light bulb goes on. Like, oh, I get to say what I want. I get to really consider the possibility that it's available for me, right? It's very interesting. As you're talking, I'm thinking about my own life. And prior to leaving the corporate sector, I have known what my purpose was. I have known what I wanted to do for well over 20 years. And I remember when it was time for me to leave the corporate sector, I was dealing with some health issues, and I did not give myself permission to leave.
Right.
It was a conversation with my husband who made it make sense for me. Just saying, well, that's an issue, isn't it? And if you work with others and telling them to honor themselves and telling them to stand up for themselves, why are you not doing the same for you? And it was like a light bulb went on in that moment. But before, it was almost like I was not supposed to. But again, the conditioning was to go to school, get a good education, get a good job, and then everything would be okay. And so I'm sitting in that space. Like I didn't have the education at the time, but I had the good job and making well over six figures. There was so much inside of me saying, you'd be crazy to walk away from this. This is what everybody wants. And so you deal with all of these internal beliefs and then the conditioning to where you don't think about what is it that you really want.
Yeah.
What is it that you really want? And when you talk about guilt, there's a guilt that showed up for me. Like, you know how many people want this? And you
Yeah.
have the nerve to say, this is not what I want. Like, that's irrational.
It's like, why would you do that? You've got a great job. It doesn't make any sense. Yeah.
And there's no fulfillment. So the want is not about, the title or the money. The want is about your soul being fed. The want is about knowing that every day you are walking in your purpose, right? And I just find it fascinating. It's just one of those things. I think, again, with women, how we are playing small based on conditioning, and it's not in our consciousness. Like, we're not aware. And why we need coaches, can bring it to the attention of others and not see it for ourselves. Had my husband not made that statement, and I don't remember it verbatim, but I remember the way he said it was almost like, I felt almost like, dummy, get it together. Like, how do you do this for everyone else and you can't do it for yourself? And I was like, oh, all of the excuses, but the excuses were supporting really the belief system, the internal belief system. So as you are working with all of these women, it's something to always be mindful of. Like, they show up so differently. There's so many different belief systems, and you get to support them on that journey, whatever that looks like. So how rewarding is that? Now, when we were working together, you were just getting started. So this is new information for me. How rewarding has that been for you, or is that?
It is incredibly rewarding. One of the organizations I work with, the Public Speakers Academy, I'm one of their coaches and mentors. And when the cohorts come in, they're coming almost like rabbit in headlights, and they are consummate professionals, but this particular skill is different to them. So it's new, right? So they're feeling a bit unsure and a bit uncertain, and, guiding them through as a mentor and as a coach, knowing when they need the mentoring, when they need the coaching. And when they're coming through at the end of it and the light bulbs are going off and they're having their mini transformations and they're, whether it's their thoughts about themselves that, oh, I didn't think I could do this. Oh, I thought I was rubbish at this. And actually the seeds of development and transformation are happening and you're seeing that growth in them and you've had something to do with it or you've helped guide them along the way. That's incredibly rewarding. It just fills my heart up. I come alive when I'm working with them, when I get my own pods and I can lead them myself and do it, obviously I'm following a system, but I'm bringing my own flavor to it. And, and I'm working with them. It's so rewarding. I mean, at one of the last sessions I was at, somebody came up to me and Vanessa, come here. And I was like, what? Says, I joined the next level because of you. You don't know how much you helped me. You have no idea exactly the extent to which you helped me get from uncertainty to certainty to actually believing I could do this. And my goodness, that made me feel so good. One, that I could help another individual reach their goals or go on the journey towards their goals, but also that, oh my goodness, this is the path that I want to go on. This means so much to me because it's going towards the greater good. And that I can't even express exactly how much that means to me. But I'm hoping that you get an idea of how much that means to me.
Oh, I totally get it. I totally get it. There is something about one, I think, living in your purpose. And then there's also something about helping others on their journey. And when you can see the transformation, when you can see the transition that takes place, you get to witness it with your eyes, you get to witness it with your soul. It is definitely something that I think is indescribable from a standpoint of finding the appropriate words. I feel like that in this moment. I'm just looking at this beam of light, like really. Yeah. I don't know, was it 2 years ago, 3 years ago? I can't even remember.
Gosh, it's already 3 years ago now. Yeah. Oh.
That's
Yeah.
transformation in the person that sits across. So yes, I get to not only understand it, but experience it in the moment.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And just like humbling, right? You sit in this space of saying, wow, thank God that I am the vessel. I am the vessel that was used to help this individual go from where they were to this place and where they will go. Like when we started, I talked about, seeing you all on social media, and every time I see you, I'm like your cheerleader back here. Look at Vanessa. Look at Vanessa.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. I remember. Oh,
And just also kudos to you because you did the work. You did the work and you did not stop doing the work. So I think as we begin to move towards our close, I would ask that you share some takeaways, if there's anything that you would like to say to mompreneurs that
yeah.
you believe would help them move forward on their journey. Maybe there's someone who is not ready to get a coach for one reason or another,
Yeah.
but could use some words that may inspire them to take them one step closer to being that person who doesn't have to ask for permission, or being that person who doesn't have to feel laden with guilt because they are going after their desires and fulfilling all these other roles. So what would you say to
Mm.
that woman?
Well, before I go into that, I just want to say a very public thank you to you, Catherine, for the work that we did together, and for you being one of those coaches and mentors for me, because I appreciate it. I said it at the time, but I want to say thank you again, because you're part of my story. You're part of my journey. You're part of my transformation. So I want to say thank you for that.
Yeah.
And yeah,
So
Thank you so much. So what I would say to the mompreneurs and female entrepreneurs out there, we have unique challenges that we have to go through, and you may feel like you're overladen with the expectations of others, and having to do, responsibilities with your family and other things as well as your work. But what I would say is, don't compare yourself to somebody else. Don't compare yourself to somebody else who is 10 steps ahead of you, 20 steps ahead of you, when you may be in the first quarter. If we use a American football analogy, or any analogy, you're in the first quarter of where you are. You can't compare yourself to somebody who's in the middle or going towards the end and going towards their self-actualization, because you will beat yourself up and you won't see the progress that you are actually making as anything at all. I think the person that you need to compare yourself to is yourself. You are your only competition to say, am I doing better than what I did yesterday? Am I going forward towards what I actually want? Then that is a win. Whether that win is half a step or 1 step or 5 steps or 10 steps, progress is progress. And I think when I was talking to Catherine about vision and clarity, I think that is the absolute first step. It's so important to understand, what does that look like for you, and to understand what success is for you. For some people is, I want greater happiness, or I want that promotion, or I want to have my business. Whatever that looks like for you, you need to get clarity on what that means for you, because when you get then that clarity, you understand where is you want to go, where you're starting from, understanding that gap, and then it becomes a lot clearer. Oh, okay, that is the gap. These are the steps I need to take to fill that gap. And guess what? When you have that clarity and that picture of that vision, what tends to then happen is that the overwhelm is less. I'm not going to say that the overwhelm will completely disappear, but if you're in a place where the overwhelm of everything that's surrounding you is starting to cripple you or make you feel small, or sometimes actually stop you in your tracks and you're like a deer in headlights, clarity of where you are and understanding what the big task is and breaking it down into bite-sized chunks. Those little chunks are all you have to deal with. And then once you finish that chunk, you go on to the next chunk. Believe me, when I understood this, it was a game changer for me, because yes, there would be times that I felt, oh, I'm really tired, oh, I need to take a break. That's totally fine. That's your body saying you need a break. Listen to your body. Your body knows what's good for you. Listen to it. But having those breaking down those milestones and having those chunks, it really takes away the overwhelm, because you can then see logically what needs to happen to get you towards that beautiful life that you want, that goal that you want, that means something to you. So that's what I would say.
yeesh, thank you. So
Welcome.
if you all don't take away anything else, I usually will say, grab your pen and pad. Listen, go back and listen to about the last 5 minutes. And that's enough to just go forth.
Absolutely. It's a good starting point. If you've
Yes.
got that confusion, get
Mm,
clarity.
yes. So we've got 2 minutes left. What I would ask you to do is just tell individuals how they can connect with you.
You can connect with me on Instagram. So my Instagram handle is Vanessa Frater-Robertson, and it's an _._com. But if you put Vanessa Frater-Robertson in, you'll be able to find me on there. Also LinkedIn as well, Vanessa Frater-Robertson. I'm very active on there, and you can connect with me on there.
Awesome. Awesome. So this has been full, this has been rich, this has been very rewarding for me. I thank you for being here with me today. I thank you for continuing on your journey. I thank you for the work that you are doing and helping others to get to the place that it is that they truly desire to be. As I close out this week, my prayer for the listeners is simply to understand that you do not have to ask for permission, that balance is bogus, and anything that your heart desires, anything that shows up for you when you lay down at night, anything that shows up for you by way of desire, know that it is available for you. That is a desire that has been planted in your soul, and it is sending a message. If you're not walking in that, understand that that message is telling you that it's time for you to make a shift. It's time for you to make a pivot. My prayer is that you will hear. My prayer is that you will listen. As we sign off, I will simply remind you that in this life, we get to choose. Choose to listen from where your heart speaks and choose to live a sensational life. Peace and blessings.
Thank you for listening to Where Her Heart Speaks with Coach Catherine, where Catherine aims to challenge and disrupt ineffective thoughts and behaviors to help you not only embody peace, joy, calm, and certainty, but also help you live the life you've always dreamed of living. Follow Catherine on Facebook and Instagram at I Am Catherine James and visit www.catherinejames.com. Remember, to live the life of your dreams, you must go within and return to the place where your heart speaks.